Okay, let's move on to the Lessico part of the lesson. Che fai di bello? What you do that is fun and lovely. Okay, here we have two twins, gemelli. Although Salvatore and Riccardo are twins, gemelli, they are very different. So we're going to read the brief descriptions that they give of themselves, and then we're going to try to match what they say about themselves with all these illustrations here and all these prompts here. We're going to do it together, okay? Well, you and myself and you, my invisible students. Okay, let's see. Ciao, sono Salvatore Di Stefano, ho 20 anni e sono studente di scienze politiche all'Università degli Studi di Bologna. Ho molti amici e una ragazza. La mia ragazza si chiama Angela. Mi piace molto lo sport. So this is not dissimilar from what we did during lab in class, right? We did it in class and then we did it in lab. You did a small description of yourself. But let's move on to Riccardo, il suo fratello. Il suo, I'm using a possessive adjective, his brother, il suo fratello. Ciao, sono Riccardo Di Stefano, il fratello gemello di Salvatore. Anch'io ho 20 anni, ma non sono studente. Sono cameriere in una pizzeria nel centro di Bologna. Mi piacciono i libri e la musica. So they gave each other a description of who they are. So here we have cognome, last name, Di Stefano, età 20 anni, professione studente, hobby, lo sport. Lo stesso cognome, Di Stefano, la stessa età perché sono gemelli, 20 anni, non è studente, è cameriere in una pizzeria, hobby, i libri e la musica. Quindi gli piace leggere e ascoltare la musica. Ok. So based on your recognition of parole simili and the words that we or you have already learned, let's see if we can match the following statements from Salvatore and Riccardo. And I'm going to bring the lavagna because we're going to need some practice for that. Let me clear everything. Okay. So let's try and listen to the first one.
Servo la pizza.
Servo la pizza. Is that Salvatore or Riccardo? Well, we know already that it's Riccardo because Riccardo is the cameriere. Servo la pizza. From the verb servire, to serve. That's servire, this is the infinitive. Servo la pizza. Io servo la pizza. Okay, let's see. Next one.
Guardo la TV con la mia ragazza.
Guardo la TV con la mia ragazza. Dunque, questo sarebbe il nome è Salvatore. Salvatore guarda la TV con la sua ragazza, because we know that he has a girlfriend. Ho molti amici e una ragazza. Ok? Guardare. Let's put it here. Guardo la TV con la mia ragazza. Ok, io guardo. It doesn't say io guardo la TV, it just says guardo la TV con la mia ragazza. And the infinitive form of the verb is guardare. Let's continue. C. Lavoro tutte le sere fino alle 2. Talking about time, that we just did a little bit of time. Okay, let's listen.
Lavoro tutte le sere fino alle 2.
Allora, quello evidentemente è Riccardo, perché Riccardo fa il cameriere e lui lavora tutte le sere fino alle 2. Lavoro tutte le sere fino alle 2. Io lavoro. From the verb lavorare, to work. Okay. Let's listen to this one, the next one. Well, let's see where he is, working until 2 o'clock. Oh, must be here. Numero 4.
Ogni mattina faccio colazione con cappuccino e biscotti.
Ogni mattina, every morning, faccio colazione, I have breakfast, con cappuccino e biscotti. Now, who could this be? I guess must be Salvatore because he probably has more time to have breakfast than Riccardo. Salvatore. But let's look at the pictures. That's him. Oh, he's having cappuccino and biscotti. Let's see if that's him. We can't tell. It could be either because the twins, how can we know? So on and so forth. Let's jump to this one.
Ballo in discoteca.
Ballo in discoteca, from the verb ballare. Eccolo qua. Ballo in discoteca. Con la ragazza, probabilmente. Ballo in discoteca. Ballo in discoteca. So these are some verbs in the first person singular that you can say about things that you like to do or that you do regularly, okay? Let's check another one.
Leggo molti libri.
Leggo molti libri. Who said that he would like to read? Riccardo, mi piacciono i libri e la musica. Leggo molti libri. And we know the infinitive is leggere. Ok? Leggo molti libri. Io leggo molti libri. But look, let's review here how things are in agreement. Libri is masculino. The verb form is libri. And the adjective is also in agreement. Molti libri. Io leggo molti libri. What else is there here? Something that I also like to do. Ascolto la musica, ascoltare la musica.
Ascolto la musica.
Anche questo qua. E Riccardo, mi piacciono i libri e la musica. Ascolto la musica. The verb ascoltare. Again, that's the infinitive form of the verb. Okay, so these are verbs that you can review on your own, going through your book, playing all the prompts here and repeating. Remember, always repeat what you hear, okay? So let's see what else is here. Here's some activities that you can choose. Okay. Suono uno strumento. Suono means comes the verb suonare, to play. Suono uno strumento. Mai, never. Ogni tanto, sometimes, often, always. So you can go through these activities and read them to yourself and check how often you do it or you never do it, okay? For example, suono uno strumento. Mai. Io mai. Una volta suonavo il pianoforte, adesso non più. Faccio sport, io nuoto, Nuotare, dal verbo nuotare. Io nuoto. Mi piace nuotare. I like to swim. Mangio la pizza. Io ogni tanto. So, you know, here and there I eat pizza. Pulisco la mia camera. Pulisco la mia camera. Sempre. Io pulisco la mia camera. From the verb pulire, to clean or tidy up. Vado a letto alle 2 di mattina. Io mai. Io mi sveglio presto la mattina. Io infatti mi sveglio alle 5:30 di mattina, tutti i giorni, perché lavoro presto la mattina, ok? Faccio colazione sempre. Io sempre faccio colazione. Generalmente uno yogurt e una banana. Basta. Vado all'università in bicicletta. Mai. Vado is from the verb andare, to go. And it's an irregular verb. So that's why you don't recognize it when it says vado all'università in bicicletta. Io andare all'università? No. Ormai sono passati tanti anni. Io vado a lavorare con la metropolitana, con the subway, ok? Dormo più di 8 ore. I'd wish, mai. Dormire più di 8 ore. That would be amazing if I could sleep more than 8 hours. Dormo più di 8 ore, mai. Scarico informazioni da internet sempre. Sempre. I'm always downloading things from the internet. Scaricare is the infinitive form. To download. Or unload, it depends. It depends what you're doing, okay? So you can do this little test by yourselves and practice some of this verb. Faccio, mangio, faccio from fare. Fare means to make. I make sport means that I practice sport, okay? Suono from suonare. Mangio, mangiare. Pulisco, pulire. Vado, andare. These are all in first person singular. Vado all'università. Again, io vado all'università. Dormo, io dormo, from the verb dormire. Scarico informazioni da internet, from the verb scaricare. So you are getting an idea now of these verbs in the infinitive form and the first person singular. And I want you to do a list of things that you do during the day and things that you like using infinitive form, and go to your book. It's full of resources. You don't need to go anywhere else. Just go to your book. And a presto. Ciao ragazzi. Ciao ragazzi. This is your asynchronous Monday lesson of November 15th, 2021. Let's bring up l'ordine della lezione, the agenda for this lesson. Okay, so we are going to do a little review of what we did in class with the infinitive form of the verbs, and just a quick review of the sentence constructions we did together, okay? And then we're going to move to the present indicative, il presente indicativo, which is nothing else but the present tense of a verb. And then we're going to move to the present indicative. We're going to first do the present indicative of the verbs that end in are, and then the present indicative of the verbs that end in ere and ire. And I remind you that we said in class that in Italian, the verbs are classified in 3 categories. Those that end in are, those that end in ere, and those that end in ire. So without much further ado, let's get going. I'm going to stop sharing for a second and get organized here, bring up what we need. Okay, so in class, we looked at these 2 charts here, these verbs. On the left, we had a series of verbs in the first, in the singular, first singular of the present indicative, and here in the infinitive form, l'infinito. L'infinito, as I told you, was the equivalent of the English verbs that starts with to, like to be, to walk, that's the infinitive. And we did some sentences based on these 2 charts. Like we did, for example, io lavoro molto, and then we did it in the infinitive, and it said, mi piace lavorare molto. Okay, so you did a number of sentences where you expressed about an action, choosing one of these verbs, and then you use the prompt mi piace to include the same verb in the infinito form, okay? And let's look at this chart again for a second. We said that, you know, verbs in Italian are in 3 categories, are, ere, and ire. So let's look, for example, guardo, io guardo, I watch, guardare, that ends in are. Let's write it down here. That's 1. Let's look one for one that ends in ere. Io prendo, I take. The infinitive form is prendere, ends in ere. Prendere. And let's look for one in ire. Io apro, where is it? Io apro. The infinitive form aprire ends in ire. Okay? So those are 3 verbs that fall into one of the 3 categories. And we're going to move on. We did also explore some verbs with the twins, I gemelli, Riccardo and Stefano, and the illustrations that I hope you remember that we matched some sentences, okay? And then I showed you how the io form of the expressions had their equivalent in the infinitive form of the verb, all right? But it's much simpler than you think because verbs in Italian follow a pattern, the regular verbs, okay? So for example, for the verb lavorare, to work, and mangiare, that both end in are, we can look at the pattern here together. Io lavoro, you repeat after me. Io lavoro, tu lavori, lui, lei lavora, noi lavoriamo, voi lavorate, loro lavorano. Let's look at the verb mangiare, to eat. Io mangio, tu mangi, lui, lei mangia, noi mangiamo, voi mangiate, loro mangiano. So let's look at the pattern. So in the present indicative, the verb ends in O, ends in O. Here ends in I, ends in I. Ends in A, ends in A. Ends in amo, amo. Ate, ate, ano, ano. So there's a pattern. That's because this is a regular verb that follows explicit pattern. So this is the basic structure. Now, as I said before, we don't want to simply do these drills mechanically, like io lavoro, tu lavori, lui, lei lavora. It's always best to put them in some context where you can use your articles and adjectives and also your possessive pronouns that you have already learned. And you can add also one of the two pillar verbs of Italian language, essere and avere, okay? So let's look at how these verbs or some of these verbs in the present indicative, presente indicativo conjugate, okay? And these are your regular verbs, meaning that they follow a pattern, because not all verbs follow a pattern, all right? So we took a look at lavorare e mangiare, okay? And we observed that the endings for each subject pronoun stays steady the same, following a pattern. Lavoro, mangio, lavora, mangia, lavorate, mangiate, lavorano, mangiano, okay? So you have all of this is in your book. Now let's look at some verbs here on the right. And I'm going to just keep the conjugations of the verb lavorare as a model to fill in the empty fields of the conjugations for each verb. So we have ballare, to dance, navigare, to navigate, praticare, to practice, and studiare, to study. So I put the first conjugation of the first person singular, io, the subject pronoun io, io ballo, io navigo, io pratico, io studio. So same pattern, all end in O. Navigare, navigo. Praticare, pratico. Studiare, studio. Ok? So, tu lavori, tu balli. Tu balli. So let's see how that changes. That changes from an O to an E. Oops, un attimo. Oh, it didn't come where it has to come. Okay. To an E. Io ballo, tu balli. Lui, lei, vediamo. Let's copy that one. Let's see how in the third person singular it changes. Ok, lui, lei lavora, lui, lei balla. So it changes to a. Lui, lei balla. First person plural, noi, we. Noi lavoriamo, noi balliamo. Oops, oops, oops. Lui, lei balla. Ok, noi balliamo. Let's see how that changes. Noi balliamo, so we follow the same pattern, right? And voi ballate, it's already here, it's giving it to you. Voi lavorate, voi ballate, and last one, loro ballano. Loro ballano. So we see the same pattern. ballo, io ballo, tu balli, lui, lei balla, noi balliamo, voi ballate, loro ballano. The second person plural, voi, it refers to you and the people that are with you, okay? And loro is they, them, they. Okay, let's do the conjugation for navigare. Io navigo, tu navighi, and this is something that I need to explain to you first. Tu navighi. Mm-hmm. Tu navighi. Okay, see how I had to put an H in between the G and the I? Una H tra la lettera G e la lettera I, la vocale I. That's because I'm going to bring the lavagna. You see, if I write io navigo, and I follow the same pattern, and I don't put the H, and I put tu navigi. Now, see how different is that? When I say navigo, pay attention to the sound of the letter G. Io navigo. It's a hard sound. The G in Italian has two sounds, un suono dolce, G, 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 e un suono duro, a hard sound, G, G, G. A sweet sound, J, 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 and a hard sound, G, G, G. So when I said navigo, I'm using the hard sound of the G. So to keep the hard sound, I need to put something, I need to put the H between the G and the I. If I said tu navigi, I'm using the sweet sound, not the hard sound. So if I put an H, it says navigi. So I'm still keeping the hard sound of the G in that case, okay? Io navigo, tu navighi, and then lui, lei naviga, because I don't have to put an H there because lui, lei naviga, ga. I'm keeping the hard sound of the G. Lui, lei naviga, noi. When we go to noi navighiamo. We have to put the H there again. Because if I don't put it, it has a sweet sound. Noi navighiamo, G, G. And naviga, navigare, the infinitive form of this verb, the G has a hard sound. Navighiamo, okay? Noi navighiamo, voi navigate. You see, I don't have to put an H. And loro navigano. Okay, that's a particular example of, and there are other verbs that you have to put the H sound because the G and the C, la lettera G e la lettera C, I'm going to put it down here. C and G have two sounds in Italian. A sweet sound, un suono dolce, ch, 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 for the letter C, un suono duro, k, and the same goes for the letter G, okay? Un suono dolce, ch, 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 e un suono duro, k, k, k. I'm gonna give you an example, and this is off our topic, but you know, it will come at some point. If I say giraffa, am I using a hard sound or a sweet sound? Giraffa, it's a sweet sound, J, J, J. But if a dormouse is a ghiro, So to keep that hard sound for the letter G, I have to add the H. Giro. If I don't put the H, it sounds like giro, which means around. Vado in giro, I'm going around. Okay, so we did just now the conjugations for this verb. Let's do praticare. We're gonna follow the same pattern, okay? Praticare. Let's get rid of this chart. It's complicated. I was trying, but io pratico. So I'm following the same pattern. Io pratico. Tu pratichi. And here, look, again. Io pratico. Praticare has a hard sound for the letter C. Praticare. Praticare. Okay? So if I don't put the H here, it sounds like tu pratici. Ci is a sweet sound, so I put an H. Tu pratichi. Lui pratica. Noi. And again, pay attention. Pratichiamo. I want a hard sound there. Voi praticate. Loro praticano. Okay? So let's look at the last one. Our last verb is studiare. Okay. Something you do a lot. Io studio. Tu studi. Look, we're following the same pattern. Studi. Hey, what happened here? Tu studi. Lui, lei. Studia. Scusate, I forgot to put the lei here. And it's going to sound like I'm sexist or something. Lui, lei. Lui, lei studia. Noi studiamo. Voi studiate. Loro studiano. Okay? So this is the conjugation of those verbs. And I'm going to save this chart and send it to you. I'm going to save it as... Actually, you know what? This is what you're going to do. You're going to go to your book and do this exercise on your own. And I'm sure it will come up possibly in one of the homeworks or the assignments, we call them. Okay?